Well, good evening. Welcome back to my little gardening show. It's been another just beautiful day here in the backyard garden. Temperature is in the 60s, and we are into late summer here, getting ready for fall in the next couple days. We spent about an hour or so this afternoon really working at things, and for the most part just cleaning up the beds, getting rid of some of the obvious weeds. I did get my Swiss chard spaced. I got a little border which will hopefully keep the dog as well as the children out, so these plants have a little chance to gain some traction, get anchored again in the soil. Got the bulk of our tomatoes here at the home garden cleaned out. I left the ones in the cages as they're still doing pretty well, and there may be a chance yet that some of these will ripen up. And then we got our buckwheat planted. One thing is just really striking, having this cover mulch on top of everything, is just how the condition of the soil, just how great it is. I mean, you can see that's pretty dark black, and it's pretty easy to work too. I just took my little cultivator tool and drug it along about I guess twice, once going up and then moving a little bit over and then coming back down to break up the ground so we could plant the buckwheat, and then ran the cultivator over it again just to mix the seed into the ground, and then we watered it real well. You know, in years past I've moved things around, but I'm thinking this might be the setup I stay with. I mean, there is benefit in rotating your crops and things, but I don't know, as long as I'm amending the ground and prepping the beds, it probably isn't going to make a lot of difference whether these tomatoes stay here in this area or not. We'll see. But this is the brightest spot of the garden. It gets the most sun. Some other things, just some tweaks for next year. Looking at things, these trellises. You know, I mean, they look kind of nice the direction they're in, but I think what I'm going to do is turn them 90 degrees. The reason being is that everything in the garden wants to lean to the south, you know, where the sun is. The sun tracks, you know, starts out in the east here, kind of the southeast from where we're located, and just tracks over and then ends up a little north of us to the west. And so consequently, with the sun being at that angle as it tracks across the sky, everything is growing in that direction. So I'm going to try to take advantage of that next year. Flip these trellises 90 degrees and then plant everything on the north side, and then they'll hopefully just climb right on over and then on over and down the other side. I do have an order of garlic that's coming in. So what I'll probably do You know, by the time it comes in, these beets will be done. So this is probably going to be my garlic bed. You know, in late fall. I think it's supposed to come in November. That's when it's supposed to be shipped out. But I'll go ahead and plant it, and then we'll mulch this bed really well. And then hopefully next spring we'll have some good results. The other thing, just again, kind of learning more and more each year, what I will probably try to do too is time, you know, where I'll get these peppers planted, I try to grow some more cold weather stuff, possibly broccoli again, you know, and try that as a fall planting, but have the plants ready to go so that when I pull this stuff up, which is going to be pretty soon, you know, we'll harvest the peppers that are on here and then compost this stuff, you know, put it over in the bin. But then these beds will be open then to plant, you know, possibly broccoli and maybe some more kale, kohlrabi, the brassicas that tend to do well in the cooler temperatures. And then maybe we'll try to rig up some kind of protection on the beds. Right now it's kind of too late, I think, to start that stuff from seed, because it does get pretty cold quickly. I don't know. I may try to start a flat and just see what happens. And if they get big enough, you know, try to grow them under protection, just see how long we can go. The other thing, just looking at things as far as the fall bed prep, you know, I put down about 3 to 4 inches of these wood chips that I got from the city, where they basically hired a company to come in and chip all the tree branches and stuff that have been brought by the various tree services in the city, you know, when they're cleaning up from storms. Well, I guess the deal is they chip everything, and then they'll cart off several semi-loads to package up and sell as mulch. But they'll leave probably, it's about a 20-foot pile that's probably about 40 foot in diameter. They'll leave it there for the city, you know, for anyone who wants wood chips, they can come out and get them. So that's what we did last year. Got a trailer load and covered this garden in about 3 to 4 inches of wood chips, and it's worked out pretty well. I mean, the only if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have mulched all the way up to the plants. I would have left plenty of room. I would have also doused them with a little bit more nitrogen through the growing season, just to help them out, because the microorganisms in the soil did pull a lot of nitrogen and diverted it to breaking down the wood chips. And so consequently, there wasn't as much available to the plants, you know, though. I mean, they're pretty much doing okay now. But the other thing that's kind of fascinating, you know, like this bed, for example, and keep in mind 3 to 4 inches, I pull this back and I'm already touching dirt. There's maybe an inch and a half of these chips that isn't worked into the ground, or hasn't been pulled into the ground or broken down. But I'm not really working that hard, and the soil's nice and moist, and it's not very hard to dig down. It's real loose. So anyway, I think what I'm gonna do instead of I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I'm either going to sheet compost again, just cover the whole thing in a thick layer of leaves, or I'm going to go more specialized, still gather up a ton of leaves, but work them into the growing areas and focus more on them, and leave the paths in wood chips, and maybe get some more wood chips just for the paths. But as far as the growing areas, like this area here for the tomatoes, all of the beds, the area that would be basically the equivalent of bed for each of these trellises, just working a good amount of leaf mulch, as well as rock dust. And the rock dust is more for long-term benefit, as far as incorporating that into the soil profile, you know, so that in the long run the ground just becomes more and more nutrient dense, has more and more minerals in it for, you know, the plants to pull out as they're growing. So I don't know, those are just some random musings here as I kind of take a look at things. And you know, now that we've got it cleaned out, I mean, it really looks still very much alive and still going pretty strong. Everything's pretty healthy. The other thing I've noticed, I don't know if any other gardeners out there are noticing, but like the later crop of the tomatoes, especially in this cooler time frame, especially the cherry tomatoes, just everything is a little sweeter. And I don't know if it has anything to do with the plants, you know, in the cooler temperatures, converting more of their starches to sugars, you know, with sugar being basically nature's antifreeze. I mean, there could be something to that, but you know, the fruit is a little smaller, so maybe it's not that more starches have been converted necessarily, but it could just be that the sugars are more condensed. But everything is a lot sweeter. And even the peppers, and then these cucumbers too are sweeter than the ones that we grew over at the other place. I know kids have done a pretty good job, you know, picking the stuff that was ready today, but there's going to be some more. So anyway, I guess that's all for now. If you've got any questions or whatnot, feel free to comment. Until next time, happy gardening. Bye.